In the spring of 1995, a television crew gathered in a hushed studio to interview Walter Matthau, Hollywood's famously irascible everyman. The lights were bright, the questions polite, and yet somewhere between takes, Matthau's composure snapped. He tore off his microphone, spun on his heel, and stalked out of the room. The footage was promptly buried, vanishing for 3 decades. What single question could provoke such a legendary talent to abandon his own interview? Today, we finally uncover the astonishing story behind the lost Walter Matthau session and trace the remarkable life that drove him beyond his limits. Born October 1, 1920, in New York City's teeming Lower East Side, Walter Matthau's entrance into the world was anything but glamorous. His mother, Rose Boralski, had fled poverty and persecution in Lithuania. His father, Milton Matinskayski, arrived from Kiev in search of opportunity. They eked out a meager living in cramped tenements, sharing cold water, broken heating, and often communal toilets with dozens of neighbors. Young Walter would later recall those early years as a dreadful, horrible, stinking nightmare, a childhood marked by hunger, disease, and relentless struggle. When Walter was just 3, his father vanished without a trace, only to be revealed as deceased via hospital letter when Walter turned 15. Rose, now alone, stitched lingerie in a sweatshop to support Walter and his older brother Henry. Day after day, she dropped her boys at a nursery before trudging to back-breaking labor. Her love was fierce but stern, there was no room for weakness. By necessity, Walter learned toughness early. He found sanctuary in a grimy shared toilet stall, hiding behind stacks of newspapers as he devoured Shakespeare to escape his harsh surroundings. By age 6, Matthau was running entrepreneurial ventures from his rooftop. He hosted card games he called Bankers and Brokers and hawked candy, soda, and ice cream to theatergoers. On trips to local Yiddish plays, he glimpsed the enchantment of show business, the laughter, the drama, the way actors commanded a room. That spark ignited his youthful ambition. At 11, he landed his first stage role in a modest production called The Dishwasher, pocketing 50 cents per performance. Even then, he never stopped selling ice cream during intermissions. Survival and ambition went hand in hand. Given what he endured, do you think Walter's gritty upbringing forged the fearless, quick-witted persona that would define his career? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'm curious to know what you think. Through graduating high school in the depths of the Great Depression, Matthau seized any job he could. He joined the Federal Works Progress Administration, traveling from New York's tenements to the vast forests of Montana. There, he planted trees, cleared trails, and earned enough to eat. The WPA also put him to work coaching boxing for New York City police, drawing on his teenage ring experience. He relished the discipline and found himself reading people's tells as easily as he once read a deck of cards. When the Second World War intensified, Matthau enlisted in the Army Air Forces in 1942. Assigned as a radioman gunner in the 453rd Bombardment Group, he flew perilous missions over Nazi-occupied Europe in B-24 Liberators. Stationed at RAF Old Buckenham in England, Walter rose to staff sergeant alongside future screen legend James Stewart, who served as the group's operations officer. Each sortie was a dance with death: raids on Berlin, support for D-Day, missions into the heart of the Third Reich. 6 battle stars later, he returned home, scarred but undefeated. The GI Bill funded his entry into the dramatic workshop in New York, where he studied under political theater pioneer Erwin Piscator. Among his classmates, Marlon Brando, Tony Curtis, Rod Steiger. There, Matthau honed an acting style anchored in truth and raw emotion. In 1946, he made his Broadway debut in and of the Thousand Days, covering 7 roles as an understudy, a brutal apprenticeship that forged unwavering discipline and craft. The 1950s television golden age beckoned. While many stage actors struggled between plays, Matthau embraced live TV with unbridled gusto. He racked up 158 appearances in anthologies like Studio One, Armstrong Circle, and Robert Montgomery Presents. Performances aired once, without edits, any mistake visible to millions. He thrived under pressure, becoming a go-to for producers needing a reliable, nimble actor. By 1955, Matthau's wit and charisma lit up Broadway, and will success spoil Rock Hunter? The satirical comedy ran 444 performances, sealing his reputation as a leading man. That same year, he crossed into film opposite Burt Lancaster in The Kentuckian, its $2.6 million box office proving the Hollywood establishment was ready for him. A decade of steady work climaxed in 1965 with Neil Simon's The Odd Couple. Matthau's slouched, slovenly Oscar Madison, opposite Art Carney's neurotic Felix, ran for 964 performances and earned him a Tony Award. 1 year later, director Billy Wilder cast him as scheming lawyer Willie Gingrich in The Fortune Cookie with Jack Lemmon. During filming, the unthinkable happened. Matthau suffered a massive heart attack on set. Miraculously, he survived. When the dust settled, he won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, transforming him from character player into bona fide star. But success carried shadows. Early in his career, Matthau had developed a crippling gambling addiction. In one harrowing fortnight, he lost $183,000, mostly on spring training baseball bets. Desperate, he borrowed from mob-connected loan sharks at usurious rates, living 6 tortured years terrified of threats and violence. Every paycheck vanished into the underworld. His anxious habit of nail-biting left a permanent groove in his thumbnail, a silent scar of years spent owing money to dangerous men. Over decades, he estimated he had gambled away some $5 million, quipping bitterly that he had made $50 million as a movie star and given most of it to the bookies. That 1966 heart attack proved a turning point. Confronted by mortality, Matthau quit smoking cold turkey. He'd once smoked 3 packs a day, abandoned the racetrack, and embraced daily long walks in his Pacific Palisades neighborhood, up to 15 miles weekly. Friends said he emerged calmer, clearer, almost evangelical about clean living. In 1976, he endured risky open-heart bypass surgery, only to return to work months later. He insisted retirement was alien to my vocabulary. Matthau's combative spirit flared again in 1968 on the set of Hello, Dolly! Opposite Barbra Streisand. Their clashing styles, her perfectionism and youth, his jaded impatience, erupted in insults so vicious they nearly derailed the $20 million production. Matthau sneered that Streisand was poison, refused a wedding scene kiss, and famously quipped he had more talent in my smallest fart than she has in her entire body. Though the film flopped, the feud became Hollywood legend. His post-Oscar career spanned dramas and comedies alike. In 1971, he earned a Best Actor nomination for Koch, playing a cantankerous widower. 4 years later, in The Sunshine Boys, he teamed with George Burns as one half of a squabbling comedy duo, scoring another Oscar nod. But it was his partnership with Jack Lemmon that defined generations. 10 films over 30 years, from The Odd Couple, 1968, to Grumpy Old Men, 1993, Grumpier Old Men, 1995, and Even Out to Sea, 1997. At ages when most actors fade, Matthau and Lemmon amused and moved audiences, proving laughter has no expiration date. Off-screen, Mathau's personal life was equally dramatic. He married actress Grace Brooks in 1948. They had 2 children, David and Jenny, before divorcing in 1958 amid mounting debts and his gambling spiral. A year later, he wed writer Carol Marcus, who had twice been married to novelist William Sloane. Together they raised son Charles, born in 1962, forging a relationship Matthau called his best friendship. Carol's memoir, Among the Porcupines, recounts their 40-year marriage with wit and warmth. She pulled him out of primordial slime, he mused, and he adored her knack for tall tales. Walter often joked his middle name was Foghorn, or that his surname was really Matushansky, just to watch people's reactions. As the 1970s turned into the 80s and 90s, Matthau racked up dramatic turns: The Laughing Policeman, 1973, a gritty cop thriller; Hopscotch, 1980, in which he outwits the CIA with mischievous charm. Then came an astonishing late-career renaissance: Grumpy Old Men, a $70 million hit starring 2 septuagenarians, followed by a sequel. Even as heart trouble and kidney failure tested him, he kept acting. His final role, in Diane Keaton's Hanging Up 2000, revealed a tender vulnerability that underscored a lifetime of gruff humor. On July 1, 2000, Walter Matthau suffered a fatal heart attack at age 79. He left behind more than 50 years of performances, over 20 Broadway plays, 150 television shows, and dozens of films. His gruff drawl inspired the earliest incarnation of Homer Simpson. Fellow actors remembered him as fearless. George Burns said he didn't need a funny line to be hilarious, and friends recall his endless practical jokes on set. He had survived war, poverty, addiction, and illness, yet never lost the spark that made him one of America's most beloved screen icons. And now, the lost 1995 interview, once hidden, stands as a testament to a man who guarded his truth fiercely. In that cold studio, Walter Matthau wasn't acting. His explosive exit revealed a vulnerability and pride that no question could bruise without consequence. For 30 years, the world wondered, what questions silenced the stoniest smile in Hollywood? You've heard the life story, now decide for yourself. Was it a personal probe, a challenge to his legacy, or something else entirely? The answer remains buried until now. Clickbait title: You won't believe the question that made Walter Matthau storm off set.